guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video. Today's video is featuring some new products from Pinkfresh Studio. I am using the, what is this, Delighted, oh hold on, why can't I remember this stuff? Delighted for You, Joyful Day, and then the Diagonal Plaid press plate. I have had my Better Press for quite some time now, but I haven't really had a ton of time to play around with it. So today I thought I would do a couple of things that I had been wanting to try to see if I could get them to work. Some do, some don't. So here what I'm doing is, these are the, what are they? I think they call them porcelain. They're the white cotton panels from Spellbinders. Typically, when you're putting together your Better Press, you want to tape the corners, because when you put tape behind it, you can cause it to add extra pressure, which can give you kind of darker spots. Now, this diagonal plaid is, you can use as a plaid. I'm not going to use it that way today. I'm just going to use it as a diagonal stripe. And I am going to be inking this up with the Apricot Better Press ink. This particular ink is part of a, like a set, I guess, that is called Desert Sunsets, I think is what it's called. But that's the Coastal, the one that I'm using for the leaves that you'll see in a minute, is also from that set. So basically, you know, it's stuck to my top, my lid with the tape. I'm just going to put that down over top of it using the guides to match it up. And then I'm running it through my Spellbinders Platinum 6, and I like to roll it through forward and then backward. You can do whatever works for you. I also have all three of my shims inside my Better Press. This did not give me a perfect impression, but it gave me a pretty good one. The joy of this is, if I wanted to ink it up and do it again, I totally could, because the paper would be in the same exact spot and the press plate would be in the same exact spot. So here I am pulling the tape off. Fortunately, it did not have any ripping or tearing, and I didn't really get any pressure points. Now I'm going to put a new piece onto the same exact spot that I've already done to try some second generation better pressing. And the reason that I did it right over top is to make sure I didn't pick up any of that extra ink that still hasn't been used on the plate. And this experiment was a success. This did work. You can see a very pale kind of peach impression in the lines that it was debossing, you know, letter pressing. And this one worked pretty well, and this is actually the background that I ended up using. So here you can see the full strength and then the second generation Better Pressing. If you are not familiar with the Better Press, to clean this, you just, you know, spray it with a stamp cleaner and wipe it up. I will tell you that it does kind of stain your plates. And there's not much you can do about it outside of making sure you just clean it up immediately, because as you can see, I have some black spots on my door and on the chase, like the magnetic portion. And that is because I did not clean it up right away. And these inks are very similar to like an archival ink, and they're meant to stamp or stick to anything. So if you don't clean them up right away, you have a really hard time getting them off. So here, this is the Joyful Day. I'm using the leaf press plate. Now, I'm inking this up in this Coastal. I really thought like this peach and blue combination would be really kind of like soft and beachy. And since we're heading into summer, I know I can't believe it's almost here. Let's try to restrain our excitement. But I thought that they would be a really pretty combination, and I really did end up liking the way that it looked. So I inked that up and then ran that through again, backwards and forwards. And then the other thing that I'm going to try with this is my second experiment with, and the Better Press is like no fail. I mean, truly, it's really, really easy to get a great impression the first time you run it through. But I wanted to try it with vellum, and I've been wanting to try this to see that if it would work. I didn't bother cleaning the press plate off because honestly, I didn't think it would carry enough ink, and it didn't. But I did want to see if it would make some sort of impression onto the vellum, like an embossing folder would. And This one was less of a success. So there might be some more playing around that I could do with this. It did leave a very slight impression, but not anything that I would be like, yeah, this is cool, I want to use this. So this one, maybe I could put another piece of cardstock behind it to help thicken it up. The vellum might not just be thick enough. There's some ways to maybe kind of play around with that and try it again. That's kind of the joy of sometimes having new tools, is figuring out the different ways that you can use them. For the main image, which is the floral from the Delighted For You, I am going to stamp this in white pigment ink, and then I'm going to heat emboss it before I do my stenciling. If you're familiar with Pinkfresh Studios, they issue a whole like suite, and so it typically has a stamp, a die, a stencil, for those of you who love stencils, and it used to be a foil plate, but now they've kind of switched over to the Better Press plates, because you can use them for Better Press or you can use them for foiling. So it's kind of like a 2-for-1, and I think that you'll see a lot more companies doing that, because you can produce one product that will, or purchase, in our case, one product that will do two different things. So more bang for your buck, we're all here for that. So I did this in some white detail embossing powder, and then I am going to put this onto my sticky mat to hold it in place while I do my stenciling. Now that we're stenciling, which is pretty straightforward, there may be a little anecdote here or there, but you get the point. We're going to talk about the blog hop. So since this is part of a new release, there is a blog hop going on. They are, I believe it's open until May 7th is when they'll pull the winners, and then they announce them. But they're doing two types of giveaways. One is they're giving away the whole release on their blog and their YouTube channel, and then they're doing lots of like $25 gift cards for comments along the hop. So again, I will leave the link below in the YouTube description. You can head over and check that out. Something to note about that: there was a couple of you who said that you went to go leave a comment, but you couldn't remember your login. Hold on, we'll come back. So here, I wanted my flowers to be a bit more pinky peach and not yellowy peach. So even though I put down the lightest color in the Indian Somerset, which is called Peach Fuzz, it was more of a yellowy peach. So I'm putting Ballet Slipper over top of it to make it a bit more pink, because at this point I don't know which of the press plates I'm going to use, and I'm trying to match that apricot color. So don't be afraid to kind of layer your ink colors to get different colors to match whatever, kind of look that you're going for. For the blues, I'm pretty much just using these straight out of the cubes, and this is what is this called? Does anybody know? Is it Morning something? Morning Sky. Yes, there we go. So I'm using these pretty much just straight out of the cube to do my inking. For the leaves that are on this particular stamp on the Delighted For You, I am doing more of the lighter colors. So my base color is the lightest color, and then I'm shading it with the second lightest color. What is this? Summer Shower. That wasn't quite dark enough. It was still a bit too kind of like sky blue. So I did decide to go in and shade it with the Seaside as well. You'll see it here in a minute. We're going to do the leaves that we better pressed. So you can use your stencil with a stamped image or the press plates, whichever one you prefer. And for that one, I'm going to go all the way out to Storm, which is like the darkest navy color. For the centers of these flowers, I did the mustard, but really this is just kind of acting as like an undercoat, because I'm going to put a little bit of shine in those areas as well. For the darkest layer of the flowers, I'm again going to combine two colors. I combined the apricot with the sparkling rose to get, again, more of a peach instead of more of a yellow kind of color. So back to what I was saying. So a couple of you had made comments on my previous YouTube video where I had sent you over to the blog for a giveaway, and said that you could not remember your login, your password to the website, and so you were having trouble logging in. If that happens, first of all, don't feel bad for leaving me a comment on YouTube about it. That's fine. But there is also on the website, there's like a contact me form. You could use that as well. And if you send it to me and let me know what your email address is. Some of them I was able to figure out, like your username on YouTube matched your username on my website. So I was able to figure it out, but I can send you a password reset. And then also if you click on the password reset and you can't find the email, check your junk mail, because even though it's my website, like my emails still go to my junk mail from there. If I need to find something, I have to check my junk mail. So that's just something to note there. But don't feel bad about reaching out. If you got, I want you to be able to log in because I don't want you to miss any of those things. So yeah, that's that with the giveaway. So now that floral is done with the stenciling, and we're going to move on to the press plate with the leaves. For this stencil, there's actually, I think, 4 in the set, but I'm only going to use 2 of them. And the reason I'm only using 2 of them is because I wanted to leave some of the leaves with 1/2 of them uncolored, so that I could add some gold accents. That was always the game plan. Something that I did notice and really liked, and something I will be trying in the future. So since I pressed this in closer to a navy ink, the coastal, and then I did the ink blending in very similar colors, the ones that both sides are colored actually look very, very like no line colored, which I think is really cool. So I think that's something that maybe in the future I'll kind of play around with. I have recently bought some more ink colors, some more Better Press ink colors, to play around with. And so they just came in the mail. I ordered them from Honeybee. They just came in the mail yesterday. And so I think I'll be playing around with some of those fun kind of summer colors and seeing what kind of looks that we can get. Just because, like, anything that we can do, stencils are super popular right now. I think we just recently had that discussion. And so if there's a way for you to get multiple looks out of the investment of the Better Press, like, absolutely, we want to be able to do that, because this hobby is not cheap and it's an investment for all of us. So I think those will be some fun things to kind of play around with in the future. I also want to play around with trying out different inks to see what I can get to press and what will work and hold up. But you see just those couple of little leaves that are both filled in. Very cool. They look very, very cool. Here's something that's just a little trick. So I didn't want to waste the paper because the paper is expensive. The cotton paper is expensive. And I wanted to press my sentiment, but I already had pressed my leaves. So you can double press a piece of paper. So if you press the leaves and then you want to do the sentiment right over top of it, you can do both. You can press both right over top of each other. And in this case, I wanted to have the celebrate in a specific area. So rather than trying to tape my paper to the top, to the clear kind of lid, I chose to use that to utilize the sticky tape on the back, and I just made sure not to put it where my sentiment was. So that's a little trick that you can use if you're trying to go back in a second time and you need perfect placement for a sentiment or something like that. You can put the tape on the back. Just be careful that you don't put it where you're actually pressing, because you have that risk of the extra pressure, and sentiments, especially real fine ones like this one, are definitely going to be more sensitive to that. For the background of this card, I wanted it to be light and very beachy and summery, but I also wanted it to be interesting. And so I'm doing that by adding a metallic, and this is actually the vellum that we tried to press, because I'm cheap and I'm not wasting that. I'm not wasting it. So I'm cutting out using the nested hexagons. This is an older set, but it's one of those ones that, like, it's a great one to just have those general shapes. And then I will be using the coordinating dies for all of the things that I've either stamped or pressed to cut out. For my leaves, because my sentiment is so close, I have to do one and then the other, but that's no big deal. So now here's all of my elements cut out. I'm going to have that vellum and then the gold, a real thin gold frame. And this is pretty on its own without adding any of the extra leaves. But the extra leaves give us an opportunity to kind of add a little bit more contrast with the darker colors and to add those kind of metallic accents. So here I'm kind of playing around. I'm seeing I have a white frame pulled out, trying to see, what exactly it is I want to do. Pretty quickly, I figured out I was going to have to cut these leaves apart in order for them to lay how I wanted. That, again, was not an issue because every portion of these leaves will not be seen since they're tucked behind. So I don't have to worry about like where they're cut apart. And there's actually in the finished card, there's a portion that is one of the cut edges, but you almost can't even notice because it still has that little bit of white edge. So here, just going through and figuring out how I want everything to be laid out. And now this is where the apricot background I really liked, but it just seemed a little too busy and it was kind of taking away from my focal point. So using this second generation pressing that we did helps to give it a lighter feel. So we have that interest in the background, but it's still very light and, I guess gave that kind of beachy, kind of summery feel a little bit better. I also trimmed that piece down so that I could mat it on a piece of, this is Peach Sorbet from Spellbinders, which again, instead of doing a heavy mat, doing a light mat keeps it nice and summery. Now that everything is where I want it to be, except for the sentiment. See how that little thing moved? I am going to use the hinge method to go ahead and apply these to the pressed card front. And to do that, I just burnish it to my desk, also to the die cut pieces. This is where I'm going to remove it and trim it down because by the time I decided I wanted to trim it, it was already underneath all of my elements. So I did have to kind of go back and forth with my little swing door here to get it in good position. But once I had it in good position, I went ahead and taped that down. And then I'm just going to glue the layers as I go. For the vellum, which is my first layer, I'm being careful to add adhesive only where that gold frame is going to be, so it will be completely covered by that. And I won't have to worry about anybody being able to see that adhesive. And then I'll just go on, so on and so forth. So, what did we talked yesterday? We talked about the painted toenails, which is so funny. So here's something that's just like a quick little story. By the way, let's talk about my mom. That's what we're going to talk about because I don't know how much time we have. I asked those of you, I told you she hadn't been feeling well, and I asked those of you to keep her in her prayers, and I do appreciate that. So yesterday, she actually ended up, finally, my mother is so stubborn, I love her, but so stubborn. She finally ended up calling the doctor and going in to see her regular physician. They did some tests, not COVID, not the flu. They didn't know what was wrong with her, and so they ended up sending her to the main campus hospital, where they did some more testing. They tested her again for COVID, again for flu. It was negative. And ultimately, they ended up telling her she has pneumonia. So, not sure how it got there because she actually started with being sick to her stomach and vomiting. So I'm not really sure. But nonetheless, she ended up with pneumonia. And so they were able to give her fluids and they gave her a treatment at the hospital, sent her home with steroids and antibiotics. And she is feeling already, even though it hasn't even been 24 hours, she's already feeling so much better. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I am glad that she is home. Back to the card real quick. So here I've used some gold perfect pearl mixed with a little bit of water to do my spatters, but then also to paint in those opposite side of the leaves. something to note, I purposely painted them imperfect. I didn't want them to be perfect because I do have kind of the random splinters going all over, the background, even though they're small and a bit lighter. I didn't want them to be perfect. If you do, that's totally fine. For the actual large floral piece, I am going to continue to use the hinge method, but this time my choice of adhesive is actually going to be foam tape. This works great for that as well. And then for the Celebrate, I had to do a combination of foam tape and liquid adhesive because the C actually overlaps the flower, but the rest of it needed to be popped up. Once that is done, then I can go ahead and mount it onto that peach cardstock. So anyway, Mom is home. She is feeling much better already. So that makes me so happy. I do genuinely appreciate you guys keeping her in your prayers. I am just extremely grateful because, as I'm sure you guys all know, whether you yourself are older or you're like me and your parents are older, something happens, when your parents are older or you are older and you're getting sick, and it's not just like there's no longer that feeling of, oh, it's just a cold there, get over it. There's a genuine worry there. So I am super glad that she is home, and I'm happy to share that news with you guys. So now that everything is put together, the last little pieces are going to be these metallic pearls from Pinkfresh, and then that is going to finish out our card. I do have some more plans for some other better press techniques. Please let me know if you guys are interested in those. And don't forget to head over to the blog to enter to win. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I always appreciate your time, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.